The topic is Fighting Fire with Fire, Artificial Intelligence and Cybersecurity. So to welcome our two panelists today, we have Taha Hussain, who is the Information Security Specialist from a public utility company. And we also have Gino George, Head of Customer Analytics and AI, First Abu Dhabi Bank. So if you help me welcome them to the stage. Thank you. Our other two panelists send their apologies. They had some family emergencies, so we've turned this into a lovely fireside chat for you today. Thank you.
My name is Taha. I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I work for a public utility company, and there's reorg happening right now, which is why I'm aligned to a data center. It's a fully owned government data center, Moro Hub. We have delivered a project we are right now in the process of delivering multiple projects. At the moment, we have identity access management delivering to this public utility company. And with me today, I have Mr. Gino George. He heads the data and analytics at First Abu Dhabi Bank. So please, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Taha. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I think post-COVID, one of the great perks that we have is we actually get to meet in person and exchange views. So my name is Gino George. I manage the analytics function for First Abu Dhabi Bank, consumer banking. And the intent is always to actually derive insights and gain intelligence from data and execute them to maximize the lifetime value of customers. So I think along with that, we also need to keep the bank safe and our data and the trust and assets safe. So that's where I think some of the data and insights become extremely critical in keeping the assets safe.
Thank you. We're aware about the changing cybersecurity threat model, or the increasing number of complex cyber attacks that are happening across the globe. One of the reasons, I believe, adds on to the complexity in terms of the vector or the scalability of these attacks is artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. So while attackers play around with different logic or frameworks or different algorithms to devise complex attacks on the infrastructure of companies or services, do you think it's also changing the threat vector of data and services that we have?
I think one of the key things about AI and ML, the fact that differentiates ML is a learning part, and that's the continuously evolving part. So I think both sides, the bad actors and the players who are actually being defensive, they are continuously learning and evolving. On a broader context, if I may start, you're right. I think the level of threat from cyber attacks, it's increasing, it's becoming more sophisticated in nature, and that's a reality. And organizations are increasingly figuring out ways to continuously evolve and figure out a way to manage these kind of attacks, right? And broadly speaking, for example, very simplistically, as with everyone, in an organization, we classify that into internal or trusted attacks. This is where an employee goes rogue or our partners go rogue, or an external threat. Now, internally, what's happening is, from an AI or an ML standpoint, there is significantly huge amounts of data today. Traditionally, it used to be very much about internal data, the network, the patterns. But today, we have actually ventured into, for example, external data, unstructured data, social media chatter. So what AI ML patterns have been able to figure out is gain insights from all this enormous amount of data, and then try and either classify them, form patterns, and then figure out anomalies to figure out what is actually a threat and how do you prioritize them, right? And I think in general, from an AI/ML standpoint, we've evolved. The threat vectors have been actually mapped to a good degree, and I think it has been made possible because of probably 3-4 reasons, right? One, compared to the previous era where we used to have business rules and historically hard-coded rules to say this is a threat, today I think AI/ML genuinely help us with better decision making. So with the amount of data that we have, with the increasing level of algos, and today you have the algos that actually mimic human thinking. It's not just about, oh, what is an RPA and what's a human action. It's today neural nets figure out this continuously evolving landscape, and you have these precision algos trying to perceive the good from the bad. we are also trying to minimize the level of human work over there, right? So the amount of human work, if we can minimize, then the rate of errors, the rate of negligence will also come down. So I think AI/ML, number one, has actually helped us with better decision making. The second part, also going back to your point, there is a learning aspect. We need to be ready 24/7. The kind of attacks, the variety of attacks is continuously changing. The triggers for those are actually continuously changing. So we have this always on 24/7 ready systems, which are actually hooked on to all kind of data that serve as signals. They are continuously calibrated, and you have the ability to actually respond. And that's where the third thing comes in. Our ability to actually derive insights is great, but no good unless you act on it. So today you have these AI/ML systems being integrated with cyber security systems so that many of the things can actually be blocked almost in real time, even before some of this happens. And the last bit, what I would also think is it has significantly helped us with capacity management and planning, right? The amount of work that is being done from a human intervention is also being limited to a good degree.
You brought up a very interesting point here, the neural networks and segregating the traffic from non-human, entities or devices as well. A lot of vendors are now working towards building more capabilities, efficient capabilities, incorporating AI and ML as well, in segregating this traffic, especially the bot traffic. We're seeing a massive amount of bot traffic across the globe as well. So how do we optimize AI ML while reducing the risk to the organization as well?
So I've been reading this article that said that the gospel or the glory is actually where these machine algos would actually augment human intelligence. So I think a hybrid approach where you have actually two levels of defense, right? One level where you actually have AI/ML figuring out some kind of prioritization mechanism, which are then eventually vetted by some level of human intelligence. That combination, I think, is going to be probably the number one differentiator for many banks, right? Rather than actually looking at, I will go for a fully automated solution or a manual intensive, somewhere down the mix where you are actually blending these capabilities and a hybrid approach. That I think is very, very important. The second part is the ability of our cyber resilience and the machine algos to actually evolve at a rate that's probably faster than the attackers, right? And it's a little difficult, but I think where the hope is, today there's a lot of coordinated action that's happening in the industry. There is a lot of significant sharing of info and algos that's happening. So what, for example, many of the organizations are doing is, you are actually now hooked on, going back to the previous point, A, it's about the sophistication of the algo and the learning that's happening, but B, the sharing of data that's actually happening. So in the past, for example, if there's a social media chatter that's happening, very much on unstructured text, that was rarely actually baked into a model to say, hey, something is going to happen. Today, you have algos that are actually hooked on to social media, have the ability to parse text and then serve it as inputs so that you respond faster, right? So I think these two are important, and I think where the future lies is also on predictive maintenance, right? There are one of the recent things that I actually seen is, and again came from fintech, is there are capabilities today where these AI/ML algos using deep learning techniques are able to postulate hypotheses. So they figure out threat vectors, they figure out what is the vulnerability, they will formulate hypotheses, they will simulate actions, and then they will give you recommendations before something happens. So I think a lot of interesting things are happening in the market, and it's an activity that's happening on both sides of the equation.
One of the senior executives at Gartner mentioned that the advancements in the AI is a double-edged sword. It could be used in a good way and have repercussions as well at the same time. But I'm sure industries are going to advance in their methodologies and frameworks as well. And it would be interesting to see how the adoption of AI and ML works in the metaverse as well, and as a lot of industries are moving towards metaverse adoption as well. But I think I'll leave that for the next conference. Maybe we're short of time. Hopefully we meet again some other time. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you everyone for investing your time to be with us today. And thank you to organizers as well for this wonderful conference.
Thank you all.